I want to also encourage you to think like a systems thinker, not like a bureaucrat. Systems are important. Systems are what keep that airplane stable. If we build the right kind of systems that aren't too heavy-handed, our organizational plane can get off the ground every day. And those systems should foster the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish. Now, I'll tell you a fun story about when our first child was born and the pediatrician that we went to visit even before the birth. My wife said we had to go meet the pediatrician. I thought, well, our child isn't born yet. Why would we need to meet the pediatrician? The pediatrician sat across from us at his desk and asked my wife and I what we knew about our daughter, or what we knew about our child. We didn't even know it was going to be a daughter at that point. And I remember looking at my wife, looking at the doctor and saying, you know the child isn't born yet. And he says, yeah, but you know things about your child already. And I thought, really? He says, well, is the child upset all the time or only when you're hungry? And my wife picked up on this immediately and she said, yeah, music seems to calm the child down. When I eat, it calms her down. And so already I'm starting to learn something from this doctor. So I was intrigued and I was going to make sure I got to every single appointment, well baby or otherwise, because I wanted to see how this doctor operated. And we went in for the first well baby checkup. When our daughter was about a month old, I saw something that didn't make sense to me. I remember the pediatric visits when I was a kid. The waiting rooms were always chaos, a bunch of snotty-nosed little kids running back and forth, and thinking to myself, man, if you didn't come in sick, you were surely going to leave sick. And we walked into this doctor's office, and there were no other patients. My wife and I and our young daughter, Megan, were the only people in the room. And right at the prescribed time, at a 10 o'clock appointment time, the good doctor came out. I saw another couple leaving with their child, and he calls out Megan Sheridan, which I thought was hilarious. This is the name of my daughter. We went in for the appointment, and over the years, it was always the same. A waiting room with no patients. He taught us about how to give shots without tears. He taught us to watch for certain signals in her emotional and intellectual growth, even when she was a young baby, and I was absolutely amazed. I couldn't imagine why this doctor had no patience. I thought, well, maybe he's just a bad businessman. And this haunted me because I was seeing order in a place where there should have been chaos, and yet I was living that chaotic world at work, and I wanted what this good doctor had. I wanted this kind of order in my life, and I wasn't getting it. And these thoughts haunted me as we went back and forth with these appointments. And I began to wonder, was he a bad businessman, or did he design it this way? It wasn't until years later, after the good doctor had retired, and I was writing my first book, that I looked him up on Wikipedia, and I realized that John Gall was one of the leading systems thinkers on planet Earth. He had written Gall's Law. This is actually a famous law inside of the software industry. Gall's Law states that a complex system that works most likely emanated from a simple system that works. And a complex system designed that way from scratch can never be made to work. You must start over with a working, simple system. We have a poster at Menlo that describes this wonderfully. It comes out of the group from Vital Smarts who wrote the famous books Crucial Conversations and Influencer. And it says, your world is perfectly organized to create the behavior you are currently experiencing. In other words, if you don't like the way things are working in your organization, it's because your systems are perfectly organized to produce that behavior. In order to change the behavior, change the system. I want to encourage you to think about systems.